On October the 25th of 2020, Texas man Camilo Moron was shown on a Facebook live stream taking a sip of beer and boasting, "I drive better when I drink," while he was behind the wheel of his Honda and traveling through Harris County. The video was captured by his girlfriend, Leosfeca Gonzalez Almenares, who was in the passenger seat. Marcel Rodriguez de Mayo and Ricardo Rodriguez de Mayo, aged 32 and 40, respectively, were in the back seat. Moments after boasting about his drunk driving, Moron, who was traveling at around 90 miles per hour in a 45 area, slammed into a Ford F-150 pickup truck near the intersection of Spencer Road and Fairview Street in northwest Houston. The devastating impact was captured on CCTV, and photos taken at the scene showed the Ford turned on its side while the Honda's front end was obliterated. The truck driver, 45-year-old Pedro Hernandez Martinez, was thrown from the vehicle. He survived and was taken to a hospital in serious condition, as was 47-year-old Moron. All of the passengers in the latter man's vehicle died in the crash. Moron was arrested on 3 counts of intoxication manslaughter and 1 count of intoxication assault. In addition to speeding, his blood alcohol content was measured at 0.168. Moron still bore the bruises he'd suffered from the crash. In his booking photo, he remained jailed for 9 months, with his bond set at $275,000. In July of 2021, his bond was reduced at $110,000, and Moron was released. He was ordered to remain under house arrest, wear a GPS monitor, and make his court appearances on time every time. As of the latest updates on the matter, however, the Cuban-born man had jumped bail and was considered to be a fugitive from justice. Number 7. Coral Little. In September and October of 2017, California mother Coral Little successfully seduced 2 male teenagers who were friends of her daughter and had relations with them. The woman, who was at the time in her early 40s, initiated phone communication with the boys. She then drove 15 miles from Tulare to Visalia, picked them up from parks or even their own homes, before returning to her house where they had intercourse. Little was reported to have supplied the teens with alcohol and cigars, in addition to showing them explicit videos. The abuse was discovered after one of the victims' parents found nude photos of Little on his phone. An investigation was launched, during which the victims were interviewed by law enforcement and confessed to the illicit affair. One of the boys admitted to having intercourse with Little 3 times, with the last meetup occurring on October the 5th, but then stopped because he felt guilty towards Little's husband. The woman was arrested and charged with 21 counts of relating to the abuse of the teenagers. She blamed her behavior on depression, stemming from low self-esteem and the death of her sister. In April of 2019, she was offered a plea deal for a 6-year suspended sentence, meaning that she wouldn't have spent any jail time. When the extent of Little's actions was revealed in court, a judge ripped up the plea agreement and gave her a 4-year sentence. She would also have to register as an offender for the rest of her life. Number 6. Nicole Norris. The preteen son of Oregon woman Nicole Norris called the police to report that his mother was drunk behind the wheel while driving dangerously through Washington County in August of 2017. Sheriff's Deputy Shannon Wild later told a local ABC affiliate that the boy saw how much 30-year-old Norris had been drinking and that her driving was so bad he realized this was not normal. Wild commended him for doing so, adding, "Sometimes doing the right thing is not easy." The operator kept the boy on the line to get further information about his location and was able to pinpoint a general area after he'd given them the name of a restaurant. Law enforcement eventually used the boy's GPS to locate Norris's vehicle. The Washington County Sheriff's Office subsequently tweeted out a photo of the woman while she was in the midst of sobriety tests. A breathalyzer revealed that the Portland resident was more than twice the legal limit. Norris was consequently arrested for DUI and faced additional child endangerment charges. Number 5. Jacob Steiner. 25-year-old Jacob Steiner was arrested in Palm Beach County, Florida in August of 2017 after he was spotted riding a shopping cart while naked and intoxicated. Law enforcement was called to a Walmart in the 4200 block of 45th Street, west of Village Boulevard. Bystanders pointed officers in Steiner's direction and he was found nude in the cart. He'd received trespass warnings in the past and wasn't allowed to be on the store's property. The man, who had no fixed address at the time, was arrested, and the police wrote in their report that he was a well-known narcotics user, and this is unfortunately a very common practice for him. He was taken to the JFK Medical Center North to be medically cleared and then transported to the Palm Beach County Jail. Steiner, who appeared droopy-eyed in his mugshot, faced charges of disorderly intoxication, indecent exposure, and trespass after warning. Number 4. Sarah Knole. New York woman Sarah Knole was driving on the East Jericho Turnpike in Suffolk County on the eve of Mother's Day in 2014 when she struck a signpost and crashed into a telephone pole. 30-year-old Knole had her 3 young daughters in the car, and in the accident's wake, she rounded them up and ran away from the scene. Roughly 10 minutes later, the family was located by law enforcement, and Knole shoved an officer who tried to approach her. The stay-at-home mother was taken into custody and charged under Leandra's Law, a 2009 law which made drunk driving with a child a felony. She was additionally charged with leaving the scene of an accident and endangering the welfare of a child. Protective services were called, and the girls, who weren't hurt in the accident, were returned to their father, who lived at a separate address. A protective order prevented Knole from seeing them on Mother's Day. She subsequently arrived at First District Court in Central Islip in handcuffs. Knole pleaded not guilty, and her lawyer stated that she'd never knowingly endanger her children, particularly since her parents had been killed in an accident when she was still in high school. Number 3. Moriah Nestler. Law enforcement in Greenwood, Indiana was called to a local bar shortly before midnight on January the 6th of 2019. Moriah Nestler had showed up to the establishment called Pepper's, where her husband was having drinks with a friend. 26-year-old Nestler, who was reported as being intoxicated at the time, started punching her partner, grabbed his shirt, and refused to let go, according to witnesses. Patrons held the woman in the bar's parking lot until the police arrived at the scene. Nestler's husband told them he'd been attacked, a report confirmed by the fact that he had blood and redness on his neck. The woman violently resisted officers when they tried to take her into custody, and she grabbed one of their service weapons. Her combative behavior persisted as she slipped from one of her handcuffs. She was transferred from the patrol car into a jail wagon, where she continued to resist arrest and removed the camera battery from an officer's belt. During her subsequent interaction with law enforcement, Nestler revealed that she'd left her 2 young children home alone. The woman was held on a $11,900 bond at the Johnson County Jail after being charged with domestic battery, resisting law enforcement, public intoxication, neglect of a dependent, criminal mischief, disarming a law enforcement officer, disorderly conduct, and battery. Today's topic was requested by Tamika Davis 6641. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Jeff Irving. 33-year-old Jeff Irving was arrested in August of 2022 after he'd driven a vehicle through a parade celebrating Native American heritage in Gallup, New Mexico. The man had been drinking with his brothers in his Chevy Tahoe while watching the parade. They then decided to leave, and Irving started speeding the wrong way down the route of the intertribal ceremonial parade. Videos later surfaced on social media of people scrambling to get out of the vehicle's way. Irving then swerved onto a side street and pulled into a parking spot before he reversed and hit a police car while attempting to drive away. No fatalities were reported, but 15 people sustained injuries, including Gallup police officers Gilbert Gonzalez and Elijah Bowman. The authorities reported that the incident wasn't motivated by hate, but rather by the driver's lack of self-control, as he was found to be roughly 3 times the legal limit. He was also driving without a license, as it had been revoked following previous DWI incidents. Irving was charged with aggravated DWI, 14 counts of leaving the scene of an accident, 1 felony count of leaving the scene resulted in great bodily harm, and 3rd-degree felony aggravated fleeing. A representative from the Navajo Nation commented on the incident on Facebook, writing, "This was a traumatic and triggering event for many, especially for our youth, elders, and our veterans who acted quickly." We have our video about when losing it goes wrong queued up for you after number 1, just in case you haven't seen that one yet. Number 1. Sophie Shamble. Shortly after moving to the Spanish island of Gran Canaria in June of 2017, British woman Sophie Shamble was arrested for allegedly wandering the streets drunk and naked while her young children were left home alone. The police were called to the area of the woman's apartment in Pata Lavacha after residents had complained that her children were throwing things from the balcony and that she was walking around in the nude. 30-year-old Shamble had returned home by the time that officers arrived at the scene. After questioning the woman's neighbors, the police went to her residence, where they found the door open and heard crying. They entered the home to find 2 young children in a state of neglect, with one of them, Shamble's daughter, having sores on her legs from wearing a dirty diaper for several hours. The officers offered the children food and water, which they readily accepted. They were given medical care before being placed with Shamble's grandfather, who lived in the area. Shamble was arrested on suspicion of abandonment. In the aftermath, the woman and her husband, 32-year-old Sean, vehemently denied the allegations, which they claimed had ruined their lives as they resulted in Shamble losing her job and then receiving death threats. Sean told the media that they'd gone out with friends and that his wife had returned to put the children to bed before falling asleep herself. The couple, who'd sold their house in the UK to move to the island, claimed that the version of events in which Shamble was wandering the streets unclothed was a complete fabrication. Number 10. Kelly Pado. During an American Airlines flight from Dallas to Los Angeles on February the 24th of 2021, New York woman Kelly Pado spat on a fellow passenger and attacked a member of the cabin crew. Pado was traveling first class with a female friend when a racial slur was allegedly used during their conversation. Another passenger took offense to the word and admonished the 2 women for using it. The 32-year-old Bronx resident proceeded to spit on the person, then became increasingly violent as other passengers began recording them. When a flight attendant attempted to defuse the situation, Pado shoved her back. The belligerent woman was detained by a security officer and the flight was diverted to Phoenix. Pado was sentenced to 4 months in jail and ordered to pay $9,000 to American Airlines in the incident's aftermath. She would remain on probation for an additional 36 months after her release. Number 9. Hassan Shabir. Hassan Shabir, a 27-year-old resident of Birmingham, England, wrote an angry note directed at an ambulance that was blocking his driveway in November of 2017. The note, written in all caps, was left under the emergency vehicle's windscreen wiper. News of the situation went viral online after the West Midlands Ambulance Service uploaded a picture of the letter on social media. The note read, "You may be saving lives, but don't park your van in a stupid place and block my drive." At the time Shabir left the critical epistle, paramedics were treating one of his neighbors who was suffering from severe internal bleeding and ended up dying 2 days later. Internet users rallied together to insult Shabir for his perceived insensitivity. The man apologized, saying he wished people could forgive him for his seemingly uncaring reaction to the ambulance's placement. Number 8. Kimbery On. 45-year-old Kimbery On lost her temper while driving on the wrong side of the road in Hawaii on September the 10th of 2014. A video of the road rage incident recorded by another motorist named Ryan Arakaki quickly went viral and prompted Ong to surrender herself to the authorities in the aftermath. The recording showed Ong driving erratically while swearing at other drivers. She then focused her anger towards Arakaki. She screamed at him for allegedly cutting her off, all while her son sat in the passenger's seat. Though Arakaki attempted to drive away, Ong followed behind him until he agreed to pull over, at which point she aggressively confronted him. Following the emergence of the video, Ong was arrested for unauthorized entry into a vehicle, to which she pleaded not guilty in 2015. The charges were eventually dismissed under the condition that Ong stay out of trouble for a period of 4 years. She was also ordered to undergo anger management therapy. Number 7. McDonalds Incident. In December of 2022, a 19-year-old Australian woman, whose name wasn't disclosed to the media, decided to cook her own burger at McDonald's Following an argument with the cashier, the reasoning for the teen's hostile demeanor was unclear, although it was alleged she lost her patience after her meal took too long to arrive. She was recorded screaming at employees before climbing over the counter and preparing her own meal. After cooking a burger, the young woman walked towards the fridge and helped herself to a bottle of water as workers contacted the authorities. Before she was able to leave the kitchen area, the suspect was detained by responding Adelaide police officers. The young woman attempted to resist arrest by throwing the stolen beverage at law enforcement before finally being detained. The entire incident was recorded on video and later went viral on TikTok. Number 6. Katie Lee Pitchford. On June the 4th of 2019, 21-year-old Katie Lee Pitchford lost her temper during an argument with her boyfriend, Tyler Sweeney, at their home in Indian Harbor Beach, Florida. The altercation allegedly began over texts Sweeney had discovered on Pitchford's cell phone. After the argument was initiated, it quickly turned physical. Pitchford began hitting him with a brush as she berated him and scratched his face. As the violence escalated, she began choking Sweeney and squeezed his genitals until he bled. He later denied striking Pitchford back, claiming only to have attempted to dodge and block her attacks before he managed to call 911. Police arrested Pitchford, charging her with domestic battery. She denied the accusations, telling officers the altercation had been merely verbal. At the time, she was on probation for kicking a policeman in the face 2 years earlier. In the aftermath, Pitchford was forbidden from contacting her victim and would only be able to return to the residence to retrieve her belongings. Number 5. Rory Woods. On October the 12th of 2022, Rory Woods released a swarm of bees at a police officer while protesting an ongoing eviction in Longmeadow, Massachusetts. Woods had become irate after pulling up to the scene on Memory Lane, where the police were serving the notice of eviction. Though she wasn't directly affected by the eviction, she'd driven from another county to participate in the protest. Woods had been driving an SUV with a trailer containing multiple beehives. She removed the lids and shook the hives toward the deputies, at which point both the officers, as well as bystanders, were stung. Woods then transported the hives from the trailer to the property's front door. One of the police officers, who was allergic to bee stings, had to be taken to the hospital. Woods was charged with disorderly conduct and 4 counts of assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. Number 4. McDonalds Brawl. At about 3 a.m. on September the 10th of 2017, Texas woman Monique Hernandez McNeely was waiting to place an order at an Indianapolis McDonald's when she witnessed 2 women attempting to climb through the drive-thru window. Hernandez McNeely immediately began recording the situation on her cell phone. The 2 women, whose identities weren't released, were arguing with the restaurant's manager over their order of McNuggets, claiming they'd paid for 10 but received only 4. The manager showed the rowdy clients their receipt and told them they'd have to get in the back of the line if they wanted more. Unhappy with the proposed solution, they began furiously honking their car horn. Before climbing through the window, the women charged at the manager while screaming insults at him. They eventually climbed back into their car and sped away. Hernandez McNeely's video caught a glimpse of the assailant's license plate number, which was subsequently sent to the police. In the aftermath, the incident drew comparisons to when, in 2010, a woman named Melody Duchesne had attacked a McDonald's cashier for refusing to sell her an order of McNuggets at 10:30 in the morning. Duchesne ended up being sentenced to 60 days in jail for assault. Number 3. Amanda Martinez. On November the 7th of 2021, 31-year-old Texas resident Amanda Martinez threw a container of hot soup at 24-year-old restaurant manager Janelle Broland after the plastic lid melted due to the dish's high temperature. In surveillance footage retrieved by police, Martinez was shown berating Broland about the issue. The latter told the intemperate woman she needed to either speak respectfully or leave the restaurant. Martinez then fully lost her temper, throwing the entire soup in Broland's face. The Sol de Jalisco manager said she felt as though she'd been pepper sprayed. By the time police arrived at the restaurant, Martinez and her male companion had driven away, and a warrant was issued for her arrest. Martinez faced a misdemeanor charge of assault causing bodily injury. Her trial was set to begin in September of 2022 but was postponed. If found guilty, she could face a year in prison plus $4,000 in fines. Number 2. Lauren Nahum Minti. On February the 15th of 2019, Englishwoman Lauren Nahum Minti was arrested after losing a wallet filled with stolen checks and credit cards. Wareham police became involved when, on February the 6th, a local resident reported that he hadn't received a number of checks he'd been expecting, despite some of them having been cashed. 7 days later, officers were contacted by employees of a TJ Maxx store who'd found a wallet containing checks and credit cards with multiple different names, some of which reportedly belonged to the first victim. None of the other card holders were aware that their belongings had been stolen. Police were able to locate the owner of the wallet, 23-year-old Nahum Minti. She was consequently charged with larceny, receiving stolen property, uttering a false check, and receiving a stolen credit card. Number 1. Samantha Wilson. Florida woman Samantha Wilson covered her ex-boyfriend, 31-year-old Brian Kuzma, in pork fried rice and red sauce during an argument on May the 24th of 2017. Wilson, also 31 at the time, had arrived at the Chinese restaurant where Kuzma was eating lunch to drop off their son. When she arrived, however, she and her ex began arguing after he denounced her for keeping the child out of school. When Kuzma asked her to leave, Wilson grabbed his lunch plate and tossed it at him, covering him in hot pork rice and red sauce from head to toe. The victim didn't require medical attention and declined to press charges against the woman. However, police decided to interview Wilson, who admitted to attacking Kuzma, but told officers she'd only done so to keep him from harming her, as he'd allegedly done in the past. She was subsequently arrested for battery and was forbidden from making any further contact with her ex. Thanks for watching. Would you rather turn into a werewolf with every full moon, or into an uncontrollable Hulk-like monster whenever you get angry? Let us know in the comments section below.